You may know that feeling of being at your healthiest weight, whether it was fleeting or maybe it lasted quite a while. You felt confident, proud of yourself, and loved the style of clothes that you got to wear comfortably. Or maybe you've never felt that and you're tired of striving for that feeling, but it always seems to be just outside of your reach. Maybe you feel so tired from the fight that you just decide to settle because it just feels too hard. Some tell me they just don't have it within them. They don't have the energy to put that effort into it again. Well, I believe you're watching this for a reason. So stay with me and hear what this life and weight loss coach has to say from her training and experience, not only in coaching, but also from my 21 years of nursing as well as personal training. Hi, I'm Clarenda, and I help women lose weight in a way that they can live their life long term. No quick fixes that leave you disappointed later. No one size fits all because we're all unique. We reset your hunger hormones so that everything else becomes easier and faster from a scientific base. We look at the underlying causes so that you can lose the weight once and for all. The diet industry has overwhelmed too many people, so that's why I created the Feel Light Mind and Body experience from my training. If you want weight loss simplified, you're in the right place. Welcome to episode 171, Create Your Comeback Story. Weight loss, self-belief, strength, and more. Who loves to hike, either now or maybe in your past? My business coach said something lately that made me, of course, automatically think of you as well. She said, you have to find your fighting spirit that enjoys the climb. You can't just be a hiker that only enjoys the peaks. You have to love climbing the mountain, or you'll never get up to go on that mountain because the entire journey is a mountain. I love that because when we think of creating a comeback story, we usually picture the result. We picture zipping up those jeans and loving the way they look and feel. We picture the number on the scale that we want. We think about how good it feels to have more energy and to feel stronger. And of course, catching a glimpse of yourself in the mirror and thinking, there I am. But the fact is, there's a whole lot of life happening between here and there. And if you've lost weight and gained some of it or all of it back, you know what I'm talking about. You might remember how good you felt back then, how strong you felt, how you were eating and what you were doing, maybe even how well you were sleeping. You had more energy to get through your day and didn't just crash at the end. And you believed and felt like you could follow through on what you say. You trusted yourself. Then life happened, and it just seemed harder to do those things that you do to take care of yourself. Maybe it was stress that was increasing, which your cortisol increased, and then inflammation increased, and you just didn't have the same mobility. You felt sore and inflamed and aching, and it just took so much energy taking care of everyone else that you got put on the back burner. Maybe you started into perimenopause or went through the whole menopause and postmenopausal stage, and you just noticed that your body was responding and acting differently. Maybe you kept waiting and saying, once I retire, then I'm going to have more time. And so you pushed through that last stage, that last year of your life trying to wrap everything up, and you fell out of the healthy habits. And now you're in retirement, and somehow that availability that you thought you would have hasn't translated into your life. You're not seeing that extra space and time to do things, or you see it, but you don't have the energy to follow through. And now you're looking back to the woman that you used to be, and you're wondering, how did I let that version of me go? Where and how did that really happen? Unfortunately, sometimes our previous successes can make us feel worse about where we are now. We know what it felt like back then. We know how good we felt. We know what we're capable of because we've already done it. So that can turn into frustration for yourself because you think, I know better. I should be able to do this on my own. But I want you to think about that for a minute, because does it help you to look back and judge yourself and get mad or get frustrated and disgusted that how did I get here to this point? Does it make you take care of yourself? Does it help your body now? Does it give you energy or help you believe in yourself? Usually it drains the very energy that you need to make the change. So I want you to consider a different way of looking at this. Where you are right now is simply part of the story. It's your now, unless you decide that this is also your end. Hear this. You're allowed to want to lose weight right now. Right here, exactly where you are, in the same circumstances that you've been dealing with maybe for a few months now. It's okay to want your clothes to fit differently. It's okay to want your body to look better. I think it's awesome to age gracefully. And to me, gracefully means doing what you can with what you have, not just giving up and saying, I'll just let aging take its process. There's good to that, as in not resisting it, but let's work with it. Let's work for our future self. Wouldn't you like to have more muscle for strength, more energy for the stamina? But the key is we need to appreciate our life right now while still working towards where we want to go. That may feel a little bit strange to have the gratitude for where you are now, but if you're listening or watching this, you've got two senses that are working well together. I think this is really important because so many women will motivate themselves by being unhappy with themselves. Just think about it. Have you ever heard yourself go on a rant, whether you're verbalizing to a friend or whether you're just thinking it in your mind? I hate how I look in those pictures. Oh my goodness. Why did I let myself get to this stage? Nothing fits. Everything looks terrible. And yes, that frustration, that kind of hating or beating yourself up, that can get some motivation happening. You might even go back to dieting and lose some weight. But do you want to spend the rest of this year not liking who you are, not liking where you are in order to lose weight? Because you're going to have days where this feels easier, and there's going to be days where it feels harder. And that's when you want to be your biggest cheerleader. Over this experience, there will be days where you eat more. You go past enough, past that fullness when you're eating a meal. There may be vacations that you come home from feeling and being heavier. You may suddenly realize that, oh my gosh, one day rolled into another and I just had different excuses and I didn't exercise this week. You might have a stressful month at work or at home and you realize I'm just not fitting in my usual self-nurturing routines that I love to do. That doesn't mean that your comeback isn't working. It doesn't have to end. This is all part of it. I want you to imagine that we can jump ahead a year and you're telling me the story of how you've lost weight, how you're now at your healthiest weight and feel so good. You're telling me maybe how many pounds you lost or your sizes, or maybe it's more your biometrics, like I have my fat back down into the healthy range and I've built up muscle, my bone mass is better. Whatever it is that's part of your goals, you're so happy, so excited and proud to tell me this. You trust yourself around food, you feel more freedom around it, and you no longer spend so much mental energy wondering what you should or shouldn't eat. And I say, that's great, that's fantastic. Now tell me the rest of the story. Tell me about the week when the scale went up, even though you had been trying and sticking to the guidelines that you had for yourself. Tell me about that, how you felt. Did you want to throw in the towel? Did you for a couple of days? Did you feel bad and just grab something to eat because you're thinking it really doesn't matter? Or what about that dinner or party that you attended and you ate or drank more than you thought? And then the next morning you realized, I don't have to wait till Monday to start again. I don't have to wait until next week. I can start right now. It's okay. Tell me about the day when you were thinking, this was so much easier when I was younger, and yet you continued to do what you said you were going to do. What about the day you caught yourself criticizing yourself when you looked in the mirror, and then you came back to gratitude and said, thank you, body, for carrying me today. Thank you for my health, that I am up and I'm not in bed. Thank you that I get to do the things that I love to do, that I get to serve and help others. Tell me about the time when you thought that menopause had changed your body so much that it just felt hopeless to continue. What did you do next? How did you talk yourself off the ledge? What made you decide to keep working towards your goal so that you could be here telling me your comeback story? I want you to include all of that in your story because we often tend to just think about the success and we tell that story and we forget about all the messy parts in between. That all matters. Often when we visualize ourselves, we see ourselves at the finish line. We forget about all the decisions and disappointments that happen all along the way as we experience life for what it is. The thing is, if you expect those things to be happening, if you expect them to be part of your comeback story, then you're not taken so off guard. You're not taking yourself out of the game because it's just part of it. You don't have to make it mean that you're failing. You just simply say, okay, let's look at this. What can I do next? What can I learn from this? What do I now know that if I hadn't had that experience, I maybe wouldn't realize? Maybe you are realizing, I do eat because I don't want to deal with the emotion. And it's kind of subconsciously. You're not really saying, I'm going to eat because I don't want to deal with this. You just eat because you're avoiding that emotion, because maybe you haven't been taught or have the skill set to hold those emotions, to process them. When you expect these things to come your way, you're more prepared and you're like, oh, which tool in my tool belt can I pull out right now? Because I know that will help me. And I especially want to talk to those of you who are in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. Are you believing that your age or your menopausal stage is dictating the results in your life? Are you allowing them to dictate what is possible for you? Your body is probably different than it was at age 30, right? Because hormonal changes are real. There's no denying that. Yes, it can be frustrating because we all want to maintain our muscle. We want to keep having the energy that we had when we were 30. We want to have deep restorative sleep. We know that what and how much we eat matters, and having our hunger hormones balanced, that matters. So the things that are going on physiologically needs to be understood rather than just judging. They need to be understood rather than just be ignored. But be careful about what you make these changes mean. Notice what story you attach to these changes. There's a big difference between recognizing that your body has changed and staying stuck where you are right now. There's a resignation in that when they say, it's just too hard to lose weight right now. I'm postmenopause and this is just the way it is. I guess feeling tired is part of getting older. And once you believe there's nothing you can do, why would your brain put energy into trying something different? This is where I want you to get curious and think about where you have decided that it's just not possible for you right now. It may have been possible 10 years ago, but it's no longer possible. And maybe your comeback goal is not to get exactly back to where you were before. I'm almost 57, and I don't need to recreate the 35-year-old body that had less wrinkles and a tiny waist. I want to be fit and strong and be the best that I can be at 57 and beyond. I want to take excellent care of my body that I have now because it's a gift. I want to be strong and independent. I want to keep having energy and know how to generate more energy. I want to be wise and realize what depletes my energy, what's good for my system and what's not. I want to continue to hike. I want to continue to be able to go up those mountains. And I'm willing to learn what this body needs right now and how I want to fuel it differently, how I want to schedule activities differently to support it, not to deplete it. That's something I want you to think about as well. This would be a great journaling question. When you think about, I want to get back to myself, who is that woman you're wanting to get back to? Because it might not be so much about the weight, the number on the scale. It's about how she felt. The number is only a symptom of what's going on within, whether that's within your physical body or up into your mind. Most people say, I miss having the energy that I once had. Many miss just being able to put on whatever clothes that they wore maybe 3 weeks ago, trusting and knowing that they're going to fit the same way. They miss maybe being able to wear some of the styles that are a little more stylish or are a little more form-fitting, and they just feel good. So I want you to think about whether you're just chasing a number. Now, there's nothing wrong with the number. It's good to know your number on the scale. It's also a good thought revealer. You can notice if you're being supportive, if you're being curious and more neutral, like, okay, this tells me that when I eat out, there's probably a lot of sodium, my weight's going to go up. Or if you're beating yourself up. If so, you're going to see the scale as the enemy and not your friend. So if you want to lose 20 pounds, let's lose 20 pounds. If you have a goal of 100 pounds, let's get started in the best way so that it's not just a quick fix. We want this to be a long-term solution for you. Enough of that yo-yo dieting, right? You deserve better than that. Then while you're doing that, whatever goal you set, I want you to think about what you're getting back in your life. Maybe you're getting that sense of satisfaction that you follow through on your word. You keep your promises to yourself. Maybe you stopped eating when you were at enough, when you felt satisfied, rather than finishing everything on your plate because it was delicious. Way to go. Maybe you lifted a heavier set or biked farther than you have the past month. Good for you. Who knew, right? You can still do that at this age. Maybe you had a hard day and you didn't eat everything in sight just so that you could feel better for 20 minutes. Or maybe you got off track for 3 days, and rather than staying off track for 2 to 3 months, you just got back on track the next day. That's your comeback happening. And that's what we're going to be working on, especially over the next month as we get back into our routines. And let's come back to the hiking analogy. If the only part of the hike you're willing to enjoy is when you're standing at the peak and taking in the view, then you're missing the majority of the hike. Think about it. The climb is where you learn what you're capable of. Sometimes you stop to catch your breath. Sometimes you wonder, how much farther do I have to go? Because about a third of the way up, the top looked closer than it does now. Or maybe every few steps you stop and you look up and you're like, seriously? How much farther do we have to go? And then you keep walking. And if you have someone beside you, you allow them to encourage you as you encourage them, maybe at another little peak that you get to. I believe we need that fighting spirit in any area of life that we're trying to make a change in. But I want to make an important distinction here because I started this episode addressing how some of you are so tired of having to fight to get that weight off. I don't want your fighting to be you fighting yourself. You don't need another war within your mind or your body. You need some fight for yourself and your future health. The empowered kind is saying, I'm willing, I'm committed to figuring this out. I'm not going to decide ahead of time that I can't. I'm going to learn what works for me now. I can have a disappointing day without turning it into a disappointing year. That's the fighting spirit that I want you to find again. And if you've never reached your healthiest weight before, you can still have a comeback story. Maybe you're not coming back to a smaller body. Maybe you're coming back to a belief that I can change this, believing that change is possible. Maybe years of dieting has chipped away at your confidence. I remember that happened for my mom. Every time something didn't last, maybe you collected that as evidence that you were the problem. You weren't, my friend. There were things you just didn't understand yet. There may still be things you need to learn about your body, your brain, your habits, your food patterns, and the reason you keep returning to food when you're not physically hungry. That's why I do this work in the way that I do it. I don't want you to start a new diet every time your jeans get tight. I want you to understand yourself well enough so that you can navigate the ebbs and flows of life. I want you to understand yourself and have the knowledge of what to do when life changes. Because life will change. It'll try to get in your way. There will be celebrations, vacations, retirement, aging parents, grandchildren, sickness, illness. Oh, so many other things we could add to it. There will be things that will just throw you off. It's like it just throws your usual routine out the window. Your ability to come back is crucial. Actually, I think that may be one of the most valuable skills that you can develop. knowing how to come back without the drama, without making it mean that you're a failure, without deciding that you've ruined everything. Having the skill set to just start where you are right now instead of waiting for January 1st or that magical Monday for your motivation. So after you're done listening, why not write your comeback story? Pick a point in your life that feels meaningful to you. Often it is a birthday. By this date, I want to feel what? Maybe it's just 6 months from now. Like, I want to have this weight off and have more energy in 6 months. I want you to future focus and imagine what has changed. How do you feel when you wake up? How do you feel when you go to bed? How do you handle social situations? Are you avoiding them, or are you spending time with family and friends that you love and you're more excited about being with them than you are at the food? What are you wearing? What are you doing? Can your body do more now than it could 6 months ago? What are you believing about yourself that right now, today, you're either having a hard time believing it or you don't believe it? Let your imagination go. Visualize and bring in all 5 senses. But please don't write me the perfect story. I want you to think about how you handled things when it was hard. Put some real life in there. When is it that you doubted yourself, and what did you do? Who did you have for support, and how was that helpful? What did you learn, and when were you tempted to quit? What surprised you? How did you react differently than you had in the past? And when you've written it, look at that woman. She didn't become that woman when she reached her goal. She became that woman while she was climbing. Even if she slipped and fell, she got back up and she kept on going. Every time she learned something from the slip up instead of using it against herself. She kept following through, even though her brain would say, this is too much. When the old familiar excuses would come up, she would think of her future self, and she would do that. She knew that her future self would be so glad that she did. That's how your comeback story gets written. Comeback stories have to include the messy. Recently on one of our group coaching calls, we were sharing our micro wins. And when it came to one lady, I said, okay, your turn. And she's like, oh, I was hoping you would skip me. I said, oh, this is going to be good. I think we might be able to dig a little deeper here. Of course, we all laughed because we keep humor in our sessions. But she said she had been on vacation for 2 weeks and really hadn't been into the modules, hadn't attended the coaching sessions. So she felt like in her mind that she wasn't as connected. And she said, yeah, I had 3 different things that I probably shouldn't have had. So I said, let's get clear. What exactly did you have? And listen, she had some chips, she had ice cream, and she had a piece of her sister-in-law's homemade coconut cream pie. So the first thing I said is, do you like your reasons for having it? Because sometimes we're doing it just to people please. She said, the chips, not so much. I could have just had a few and put them in a bowl or something and not completely ate them. So that is something I would change. Great. Good to know. Ice cream, nope. She had been delaying the gratification like as part of our thing. So that was part of her plan. She was going to have ice cream and she enjoyed every bite, didn't have to feel guilty about doing so. Then with the coconut cream pie, she said, yeah, I did want to have that. And I said, great. Then why are you beating yourself up? Like, why are you coming thinking you didn't win? What else did you do in these 2 weeks? Well, compared to the past, especially, that's what we talked about. They packed fresh veggies. They had salads. They walked and biked a lot. They chose healthier buns when they were barbecuing. Like, so many good, healthy things. I'm like, those are major wins. And then listen to this. She also said, yeah, and I expected the scale would probably go up, but it stayed the same. So I'm like, what? That's a full-out win. And what would you have done in the past again? And she said, well, I probably would have continued eating the other days because these were 3 separate days over the 2 weeks. I probably wouldn't have stopped at one piece of pie. So I stopped her and said, can you see that your brain is just focusing on 3 things and has been ignoring the 97% of things that you were doing well? Like, that's not the energy to create from. So she came to the session feeling kind of discouraged, a little bit of shame and blame, and she left feeling empowered. She enjoyed her 2 weeks of vacation. I shared that I also had Tostitos on my last day. And I was like, yeah, that's probably going to put the scale up. But it didn't. I was still down like 0.6. Like, that's how you can live your life. It doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to feel deprived. Her brain was just offering her previous old diet mentality. And when that happens, we tend to ignore it, just kind of stuff it, push it aside. But we take that negative energy with us. And it's really hard to generate a healthy lifestyle and keep you out of that sympathetic nervous state of, ooh, like this, like I've got to do this, and that willpower, and got to rely on discipline only, instead of creating new neural pathways that just make it easier to get back into what feels good for our body and our mind. And this is just one of the many reasons why I believe so much in coaching and community. Losing weight on your own you can just go down a spiral so much easier. You can't see what another person can see because you're in your story. You're swarming in your emotions. You're listening to your own thoughts about how you think you're doing, and so often you're off. Like in this example, you may be making progress, but you're barely noticing because your brain is stuck on being perfect. I don't want to lose weight and live my life in perfection because I would have to always be on guard. Too often when doing this alone, we have a setback and then we stay stuck longer than we need to. We magnify, we make things seem bigger than it is, or we diminish it and think, that doesn't matter. And then the next day, that doesn't matter. And the next day, that doesn't matter, until we wonder why we're not reaching our goals, why we're not getting that results. There's a balance. Having someone help you see what you can't always see makes such a difference. And there's something else my current clients are always saying they're grateful for. Knowing that they have that weekly session to come back to. Knowing that if they feel they can't get out of their funk, they know I'm going to get them out of their funk. We're going to talk about what happened, learn from what happened, and have a plan moving forward. They will leave feeling empowered, not disempowered. In the group calls, they hear another woman going through something and they're like, oh my gosh, me too, or I've been there. Or in the future, when that happens to them, they remember the coaching that they heard from another lady. We're all just real women doing real life. And sometimes when someone shares a win, it's very inspirational. It's like, I can do it if she can do it. There's encouragement available on the harder weeks, and there's people who get you and who are able to celebrate with you as you reach your goal, whether that's a short-term goal or your big goal. It's a safe place to share your highs and lows. It's confidential. It's not judgmental, and it's just more enjoyable, not having to do it alone. And if you're listening to this and thinking, I'm ready for a comeback, I don't want to start another program that I'm going to have to keep starting again and again. What am I missing? Let's talk. You can book a complimentary 20-minute consult. We'll talk about where you are now, what seems to be getting in your way, and where you want to go. And if you're not yet ready to have that conversation, you can simply add your name to the waiting list if you know that you want to get healthier. It's great if you want to make a decision now, but it's also not necessary. By clicking on the reservation invitation, you're simply letting me know that you're interested, and I can keep you up to date on what's happening next. Either way, I hope you take the time to write your comeback story that we've talked about today. And remember, when you write it, don't just tell me how it ends. Tell me how you became the woman who got there. Thanks for spending this time with me. I know I went a little bit longer than I usually do, but that's what happens when I come back from vacation, all recharged and fired up. All right, I'll see you in next week's Feel Light Mind and Body episode.